At Chris Kehler Holistic, we demonstrate real healing and real caring to your health issues and needs. Our solution for you is an alternative to the alternative. Our out-of-the-box treatment methods are aimed to your specific well-being and are quite different than most. Venturing down the realm of quantum energy healing, Chris uses unique modalities of healing, such as spiritual intervention with pendulum dowsing, sacred geometry tools such as the neutralization, divinity, and sun ring. Another tool Chris uses is a 5-tiered pyramid affectionately known as the Silver Light Pyramid to activate quantum activity within the body. Also, Chris Kehler Holistic uses radionic technologies in various platforms with specific liquid mineral ionics to balance out excesses and deficiencies within the body. At Chris Kehler Holistic, our goal is to get tangible and measurable results in the least amount of time possible so you can carry on with what's important in your life. Another advantage to this unique energy healing is that it can be done at a distance healing session. So location is not a barrier and can be done conveniently at your home, office, just about anywhere through Skype or telephone conferencing. Eliminate costly protocols, expensive monthly supplements, high-priced allopathic operations, invasive surgeries, and dubious medication applications that keep you trapped in a financial and health rat race. Get a specific, customized, out-of-the-box solution tailored for your health recovery. At Chris Kehler Holistic, we are warm welcoming and want to put you at ease with your visit to us. Please visit www.chriskehler.net for further information as we welcome your questions and inquiries to starting this unique journey. At Chris Kehler Holistic, we want to show you that we are the alternative to the alternative and the out-of-the-box solution to customize an answer for you to spend less and gain more in your high vibrancy journey. Visit www.chriskehler.net. Real healing and real caring to your health needs.
I would like to introduce to you tonight in his show, Mr. Chris Kehler.
I am your host for tonight, Chris Kehler. Tonight we're going to be interviewing the one and only, and I am honored to have her on my show. We're going to be talking with Miss Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot. We're going to bring her on in a couple of minutes. I had the absolute honor of doing an interview with Kerry Cassidy. All I can say is that there's a lot of people listening. Thank you for helping me to get this word out. It's been a real crazy ride the last week and a half, and we're starting to waver a little bit, but I think we're going to be just fine. Energy shifting this week. Today was a huge energy shift. There's been a lot of it happening fast and furious. If you look at all of the alignments that have been happening, all of the different eclipses, all of the comets, all of the asteroids that are coming and going throughout our solar system, that is bringing in a lot of shifting of energy, which is causing things to happen on this planet. And for the most part, it's the ousting of a lot of dark energies. And again, as always, I'm seeing it within my work that we're finding it a lot easier, a lot more fluid to be able to work on people and their health problems. It's making a huge difference. What are you guys feeling in Charles, Bob? Is the energy shifting in that into the woods too, just like up here?
I'll tell you a quick story, okay? You know, I go out like every couple of days and I'm talking to groups. Every single time that I go out, people that I talk to later on forget they were even there. I mean, it's like, I'm serious. I'm not kidding you. Or like today, some guy on the highway smacked into a brick wall. Okay. I mean, totally ruined his car and forgot that the reason he hit the wall was because he was firing a gun at somebody next door to him in the next car. He said, I don't know what happened. I just hit the wall. I'm serious. I mean, people forget. There's something going on with the forget, and it's blamed on, and I have it on a believe it or not, and I'll talk to you about this on another time, though, but it all has to do with chemtrails.
There's a lot going on with chemtrails. And,
there's something in there.
That is a 10-hour show.
This was...
somebody's committing a crime.
This was sent to me by somebody way up there, okay? And it's called chemtrail flu. I had no idea anything about it until I read it. And I'm like, it says you're sick, your nose is stuffy, your body aches, you're sweaty, coughing, sneezing, and don't have enough energy to get out of bed.
Here's what I found. I've got a 2-year-old daughter, and of course, kids get sick. It's just going to happen. My daughter's got this runny nose, big, thick, green coming out. I've told this story before. My wife says, Mystery Healer, man, come on, do something about your daughter already. So I got my books out, started looking for it, couldn't find it. Changed some energy, couldn't find it. All of a sudden, I was told about Chemtrail virus. I moved it out of her sinuses and out of her nasal passages. The next day, she was perfectly fine. And in my books, the proof is in the pudding. You move something out, and if there's a change, you know that there's an existence of it. And I've been doing that with everyone. Anyone who has seasonal allergies or flus or colds, how does everyone all of a sudden get this without even going out of the house? It is chemtrail driven. There is stuff falling from the sky that's getting in our respiratory system and in our heart and causing a lot of different problems.
Well, I think, yeah, I think I can say who this guy is. He's Dr.Len Horowitz. He's a nice guy, but I mean, you know, as I said, because we talk about that all the time, and I've had some of the biggest guys, you know, connected to chemtrails and all the rest of the conspiracy around it, and you know, the rest of the guys that are listening are, you know, they're doing the same thing, they're writing about the same things, they got books out about the same things, and so we're all together in this.
There's so many people out there that have a very high resonation with all of this stuff and need to bring it forward. Just a bit of news. One of our past guests, Tom Benedict, has passed away.
Oh.
Yeah, I was talking with one of my clients who's trying to buy some of his stones, and her order wasn't coming in. She called and talked to his wife, and he had passed away. So condolences go out from the energy world to Tom's family.
Don't worry about a thing, Chris. He's right here.
He certainly is, isn't he?
He's right here.
Let's talk a little bit about our guest, Kerry Cassidy. If anybody knows anything about energy and about conspiracy and about all this alternative stuff, I met Kerry one video series from Ashyanna Deane when she did. I was just blown away at the depth of the interview and how the questions were. And it was really eye-opening that somebody is coming forward at this extent and doing these types of interviews and these videos. So let's bring into the program Miss Kerry Cassidy. Kerry, welcome to A Quantum View.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely excellent. I was on your show just, I think it was a week and a half ago. People listening to your show really resonated with what you and I had to say. And I thank you very, very much for that, Kerry. That's just a wonderful thing.
Oh, well, I'm very happy to hear that. That's just great, you know, because I go on intuition when I invite guests on my show. Sometimes I go out in left field and grab someone who no one knows. I'm not saying that's the case with you, but I didn't know about you until I guess I was approached by someone telling me about you. And then, you know, I get these things all the time, and lots of people do want to come on my show. I do pick and choose, and a lot of it, I don't have time in my day to do an in-depth investigation of every person that crosses my my sort of perception, or somebody, you know, suggests them as a guest and so on. I do try to consider everyone and take a look at everyone. There is a weird dynamic that goes on when I send an email inviting people on my show and they never get it. I am having interference with that kind of thing. So I'm glad we connected. I'm glad it all worked out and went as smoothly as it did. You were a great guest, and we covered some very interesting subjects.
Oh, and we just touched the tip of the iceberg too, let me tell you. Now, tonight we want to touch base on humanity. Humans are a mixture of 12 extraterrestrial races. Now, that's something that I've heard from many different people. What's your perception on the mix of different races within us?
Well, in a certain sense, I guess you could call us the 13th race, if you really want to go there. We are, from what I understand, a combination of at least 12, and maybe more at this point, because this sort of, I think this was the original experiment, was with 12, the DNA from 12 different species that went into to creating the human genome, from what I understand. And then also one maybe, spiritual element that maybe doesn't have anything to do with that is human and the sort of, spiritual connection that humanity comes from source in a certain way, going into all of that. So, from there, you get into all the different ET races who have visited through the years. And this is where Ashyanna Deane's book, Voyagers, actually, I think it's the first book of Voyager that really goes through the history of humanity in a way that not even the Bible covers. And so this is really important because we're talking going back several seedings of humanity on the planet. And when you start looking at it like that, it changes your view of what's really going on here. And you start to also understand that we are a melting pot. So it's not just the United States is a melting pot, as above, so below, but starting to understand that the entire earth is a melting pot of races that have, ET origins and, come from source in terms of having soul development. And that we have come here as a kind of experiment to get these ET races who never have been able to get along in the multiverse, galaxies, etc., to come all onto one planet in the bodies, in the vessels we call bodies, and try to work out their differences. So that seems to be what's going on here to a large degree. Now, there's also no doubt that there are other human and humanoid species that occupy other planets in the multiverse and the galaxies. So, I think it's really important to keep that in mind. And my information comes just so people always wonder, where do my information comes from? I've got over 400 video interviews. I've got, at least that many radio shows before I used, before video, and so on. And then, of course, my own research as an individual into the esoteric realm, into the occult, etc., before I ever got involved in Camelot. And then, of course, my own intuition and downloads that I do get. I believe every one of us is a contactee. I think some people are consciously aware of this and others are not, but we are related to those races. So why wouldn't we be contacted by them, whether consciously or So, we either choose to remember or not. So that's kind of at least a short summary in answer to your question.
Multidimensional life, our different lifetimes on this planet. What I tend to see is that there's a lot of differences. There's not a lot of confirmation. People aren't talking a lot about the same thing. There is a lot of nuances that are very consistent. The reptilian race, the gray alien. What do you find is the most common denominator?
Well, that's an interesting idea that there is a common denominator. Let's say there are two major camps in what we call the alternative sort of scene. And one side is the conspiracy side, in a sense. So we're talking about conspiracies, every conspiracy under the sun possible under which we call with the Matrix. And on the other side, you have what loosely people term as the New Agers, okay? And that tends to be with more of an emphasis on the spiritual, although not necessarily. And sometimes that we get the light parading as the dark and the dark parading as the light. And the whole thing gets very convoluted. So it's important not to sort of stigmatize or label, I think, different approaches. But I can say that the overall game on planet Earth is all about enlightenment, and that is where both sides of that question, all sides, converge. Is in the notion that we are all here for a purpose, that we're not just here idly, whiling away our time on a meaningless gesture here in terms of life, and that there is something behind what we're doing here, and some kind of you might call it an end game or a destination, but I consider I consider enlightenment to be a journey. And I even consider that the creator, in a sense, is undergoing that process even as we speak. So it's not that the creator achieves something in terms of enlightenment and that's the end. But in fact, it is constantly growing and expanding, and we are parts of the creator. And in essence, we are also mirroring that same journey. And so in a sense, it's an endless journey. And there is no real end. True enlightenment would be a journey, and it would be an ongoing one. So with that in mind, that's where, in my view, maybe this is too high level for an answer to your question, but that's the way I see it.
There's a lot of different concept of why we're here to help the whole enlightenment process of love and light. So it is a very big thing that is missing within the multiverses. And what I keep getting is that the whole shifting of energy into this higher dimensional concept of we call it the fifth dimension, call it whatever you want. It's just a higher level of vibration, is to bring up that love and light energy. And then it's going to start to spread through the multiverse.
It's really what's happening. In fact, I wanted to address, I know right before I came on the show, you guys were talking about the energies out there today. And I just have to say that the last couple of days have been wild, energy wise. And, I'm noticing a huge spike going on, with people. And I just wish to say that anyone listening to this, please, sort of try to slow yourself down and try to just be a bit of an observer and understand that people are being triggered and that there is a lot of strong energy coming in where people are having trouble hearing each other, understanding each other, and that there's a lot of change afoot. And I think that the light, if you want to kind of look at this as a battle between light and dark, I think, the dark is really pushing their advantage, but the light has now decided to start fighting back in earnest. And we have an influx right now of very positive energy. Why does that make people in the state they're in? Is because they're being challenged to come to the higher level when they're reacting. So that when something's happening around you, very high vibration going on, your tendency may be to go to the lower vibration, and react in some kind of Pavlovian, previous way in which you were programmed to do. And I would just caution people to take the higher road, if you can, in any given instance, and sort of realize that this experiment is ratcheting up, and we're part of that. You can either go up on the high level and sort of bring it in a really positive way, and then sort of breathe it out in a positive way, or you can stoop to another level and kind of cause yourself all kinds of issues. So just my words along those lines, just to sort of mitigate what I see going on around me. I just think that we carry the light. We are light beings at root, and we're very sensitive, and we have the capacity to hold more and more light as time goes on.
For me, for instance, the last 3 or 4 days, I've had a lot of aches and pains in my muscles, knowing that there is shifting happening. And I know that that's one of the symptoms that you're going to have is possible flu-like symptoms, maybe some nausea because things are vibrating out. Now, let's talk a little bit about abduction. I get a lot of people who just call me up and say, Chris, I know I've been abducted. Is there anything that I need to know? Is there any clearings I need to do? I did work on somebody today, pulled an actual implant out of her. There was a scar left above her belly button, and we energetically pulled it out, and she felt huge differences after we did it. What is your experience with speaking with people or working with people who've had big time alien abductions?
Well, I'm dealing with this all the time. Some people call it contact and some people call it abduction. So we have to make a distinction right from the get-go there. Some people feel that they are willing participants. Some people feel that they are not. And that's a whole, I don't know what you're going to call it, can of worms. It does deal with how you came in, under what circumstances, and what level you want to go to when you're talking about that. Because if you talk on the 3D level, you may feel like a victim on the 3D, but on a higher level, your soul may have chosen this path as a challenge for you. Because in the end, we're all spirit. So, it all comes down to the same thing. But how we perceive it, our angle of perception, if you will, where we're looking at it from, and where we take it to, it all interfaces that way. So, I will say that I am dealing, every day with somebody who is communicating to me that they're having contact. I get the biggest crazies, it seems, on the planet writing to me, as well as some, obviously wonderful whistleblowers, etc. Camelot is kind of a catch-all for everything, because I have a very wide reach, or wide bucket, whatever you want to call that, where I deal. Some people don't even realize this. Some people think we're only dealing with UFOs and ETs. Some people think we're, very dark. But in reality, I deal with politics. I deal with, what's going on in ancient sites. I deal with health issues. You yourself, being a healer, came on my show. And for years I've been doing this. My gamut is, I've been dealing with MMS and Jim Humble, and we've been bringing, really trying to bring the light in to all these subjects. In other words, I cross from, I was characterizing the New Age on one side, conspiracy on the other, and actually Camelot covers that whole gamut, if you want to think of it as a 360 degrees or whatever. Because the way I view the world, and that's why Camelot has that reach, because I see it as all parts of the same thing, as all Maya, as all, the illusion that's part of this, you call it a hologram, whatever you want to call it, of being on planet Earth. And so we're always looking under the surface to find the real truth of what's really going on. And that can be in every aspect of life. And so, yes, I'm dealing with abductees and contactees. The interesting thing with my whistleblowers is that every whistleblower we've ever had, and not everyone I interview is a whistleblower. Some people are authors, some people are healers, et cetera, et cetera. In some form or fashion, the actual whistleblowers that Camelot brought to the fore, almost without exception, have been also contactees. They may not talk about it. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But I've been told in one way or another, whether I get it as a download or whether the person, tells me privately, every time they are contacted by ETs, by spirit, by, demons, by, whatever you want to call it. Some people like to call them jinn. We're talking about similar things here. We're talking about corporal and non-corporal entities.
Abduction contactee scenario is a lot of people don't know how to discern the two, and it could be something completely different than an abduction or a contact. I'm working with somebody right now, and I talk to this person, and they allow me to speak about it a little bit. I won't mention any names, but this person is going through seizures, and she's in the hospital, and she's on a ton of different meds. And of course, her son is crying like crazy to the doctors to get her off of all these meds. What I keep finding within her is that there's a lot of association with my labs. It's not so much abduction, but tapping into the brain waves. Let's call it a trilateral abduction, where you got yourself, ET, and the government's involved at all these high levels.
Absolutely. It's funny, you mentioned that. I consider myself to be a MyLab, for example, and that's where you do get the government involved and NDTs. And this has been going on now for quite a long time. What can I say? The government has a vested interest because it's run behind the scenes by various ET races. And that's where you really have to go with all of this. So you have to understand, who's motivating these people, who is backing them behind the scenes, and sort of who do they have a bloodline relationship with, such that they're carrying out, I call them boots on the ground, for the various races. And some of the races are positively oriented towards humanity, and some are negatively, as we say, oriented, service to self versus service to others, if you want to use the terminology in what's known as the law of one, raw material. So what goes on here is, understanding that what you're seeing on the surface is just that. It's the surface level. And I know you understand this as a healer, and that illness does not originate on this level. It comes from a higher level. Everything that we see around us materially that affects us is only let in at a higher level, or it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't originate. So it's important to even action. When a person takes an action, it originates on a higher level first, as a thought, as a pattern, and then is executed. So once you realize that this is how, as a healer, you know this by training, right? You don't just look at the surface, sort of, manifestation. If that's like putting a Band-Aid on a wound, you're not getting to the root cause. So that's really where you have to go with all of it. And certainly looking at governments, but again, it's not the surface government. The surface government may serve, either the light or the dark, and may serve, maybe completely naive in some ways, out of choice, out of soul choice, out of, necessity, maybe denying what they really know, and so on and so forth, maybe out of protecting them and their families, playing the game, and so on. But behind them, you've got a higher level, and you certainly have dark magicians, very operational on planet Earth. And so there's a lot of levels to be considered.
Somebody in a healing capacity can just say words and make changes within the metaphysics of your body. What can be done with that type of intent on a dark level? Somebody who can really harness those 0 point energies, let's call them, and weaponize them. I look at illness in all different capacities. How come some people have these weird illnesses that there really doesn't seem to be any reason for them? And you got to start thinking about experimentation. Is there anything going on at the subconscious level, at the etheric quantum level, that is adjusting frequencies within, let's say, the causal body or the metaphysical body where we manifest things, that's causing a lot of all this? If I've got a pyramid, a high energy pyramid that I use for healing, for good, somebody can take that and certainly use it for bad. So I know the power of these tools that I'm using have got a lot of wallop to them. So somebody could easily take that and use it against somebody, of course.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. We were talking about black operations. The bottom line is, again, that if you want to conceptualize this the way it's actually working on planet Earth, first of all, they're working towards a new world order. And within that new world order, they want to have control. So at the top, they're vying for control. And at the very top, there is even a war going on at that level. So on the lower levels, they're also being used as pawns in a game, this war game, and they expect to try to come out on top. And they have an agenda. They have something they're following, and even so-called people that are antagonistic towards each other on one level may be partners on a higher level. And so you have to look at that as what's being played here. And we're talking about, in essence, the New World Order exists already. It's already out there. It's already in control of the planet. We are looking at countries being something of an illusion at this point, from their perspective. Okay. There's a lot of stuff in the press and a lot of making a big deal about one country attacking another country. But in reality, these are really fiefdoms that belong to, individuals at a higher level who are running these areas of the world, and certainly corporations are highly involved across the board. And so there are the families that are aligned with each other at the very top, and bloodlines that are followed, and all of that. So they will break rules when it suits them, and so on. So we're really talking about a fairly involved game. But if you understand that there is a secret space program, and that's just sort of a way of designating what is in essence what has been termed by some a rogue civilization. So we're talking about one civilization living on a 3D going into lower 4D, I would say, on the planet here on Earth, and another part of the civilization that has access to technologies, in some cases thousands of years in advance of what we have here on Earth today and what we understand. So we're still driving these really old-fashioned kinds of combustion engines, et cetera, et cetera. We have people that are starving to death because they don't have food when food is in abundance. Scarcity is an illusion. This is a programming that is put out there so that people will believe that war is necessary, and that, having a war over practicalities and things like, an oil-driven economy, et cetera. These are complete illusions. The secret space program has been working with free energy and energies of that nature, meaning 0-point energy, call it what you will. Even, what M.T. Keshe talks about, the Iranian physicist who I've interviewed a number of times, he's talking about plasma technology. All of this is already been worked out and been in use in the secret space program, by secret governments, behind the scene, especially led by the United States, that seems to be, to some degree on top, at least militarily speaking. England holds the purse strings, I'm told, and the City of London, Rothschild side of things, in that regard. So it's a partnership. There are various other countries involved in a high level. Russia is not an enemy in that scenario, by the way. And we're talking, this is how it goes. There may be some alliances with China, although there are some issues with the Chinese people because of the races behind the scenes, the ET races that they may be partnering with, let's say, I'm told. And all of this information coming again from my whistleblowers. And I've been doing this for 10 years now. So, and it's really a round the clock job. It's not like I go to work and then take off. I can any day or night at any time. I think I'm on vacation, but I'm really not, because something will come up and I'm dealing with it. Even going to get to dinner with somebody who appears to be a friend or a contact ends up to be a working dinner, so to speak. So it's crazy. Sometimes I actually have to, I just get away. I just have to get away from my house, get away from electronics, just to shut it off, because it's really nonstop. There's so much going on right now.
Let's switch gears just a little bit. DNA, there's a lot of people talk about different aspects of the DNA. Now, I kind of look at it as a computer program where the chromosomes are like computer cards, and the genes within the chromosomes are the programs. Kind of puts a different spin on how it all works and on how it all creates things within our bodies. The concept of multi-strand DNA. Now, I've been doing some work a little bit with activating 3-strand DNA, and then people talk about 12-strand, 24-strand, 48-strand. What is your take on the whole concept of multi-strand DNA?
Well, I think it's legitimate, the conceptualization of all of that. I'm not a scientist, biologist, whatever. So I don't perceive things in quite that same way. I can visualize it as it's been depicted. Everyone's seen DNA strands, for example. Sure. I accept the notion that we are upgrading as we go, that light is, as light beings, we're taking on various parts of our brain that have been shut down for a period of time that are now being activated. There's no doubt that we're having what are called activations. Call them energetic activations, but they're also spiritual opening of the various chakras on the body. People that don't have Kundalini activation, getting that happening with them. Some of them reacting badly to that, and so on. So there's uneven development in all ways in this regard. We do also understand that there are children coming in on the planet who have already more activated DNA strands than some of the people that are already on the planet. Although I don't draw such a hard, fast line as some people may in that regard, because I, in my own self and others, have seen constantly there being people that are highly, much more highly evolved and aware than other people at any given time on planet Earth. And again, I think it's dangerous to start kind of quantifying and compartmentalizing this kind of stuff to too great of a degree, because you can imagine where it goes. It does go to even racial divisions to some degree. It's important to understand that when we talk about even a negative ET race, that race, let's say a certain kind of reptilian race, that has a very nefarious, let's say, objective on planet Earth in regard to humans, because they want to take it over. They want to be in charge of it. That's actually their natural way of behaving. So they're working in unison with the rest of their hive mind. That's working for their version of, what we call humanity, but, their race, right? So in a certain sense, they're not going contrary to their own, biological imperative, call it. It's that prey, the sort of, prey, attacker scenario, or, however you want to term that. So, I appreciate, yes, we're having activations. Yes. Look, I've been among people who think that they are activating other people. And whereas I appreciate that notion, as coming from possibly a good hearted place, I also have to say that as a healer, and myself also, I am a healer, I can tell you that a healer knows that they don't do the healing, that the healing comes through them, and that the person who is being healed is the one who ultimately does the healing on themselves. They either allow it or don't allow the energy to come in. And they also direct it at the final analysis. So you as a soul, when you're in a state of dis-ease, and then you allow yourself to come into ease, or whatever you want to call it, healing, it's your choice, and you're navigating it and you're orchestrating it. The other person is simply facilitating sort of that energetic to come in your direction, and you're using them. I mean, in plain English. So by the same token, if you think you activate other people's strands, actually, you're just a messenger. You are someone who comes along. By the same token, when Camelot, we talk and we listen to whistleblowers and all of this, in essence, because we are multidimensional, because you can't come from source without being from source. Can you appreciate that? And so if you come from source, then at one time you had access to all knowledge, and you will again. And so we're only on that path. And so we are, in a sense, going in and coming out at all times, and we have access at any given time to the amount of knowledge that this vessel, at this time, myself, Kerry Cassidy, in this body is accessing or appearing to access. However, my higher self and my multiple dimensions and selves and reincarnation and all of that, keeping that in mind. If you take my whole self, I know it all, in a sense, at least along the lines of what source can allow people to know. So, in other words, we dictate how much we will reveal, how much we will access at any given time. So I know that's a bit long-winded, but bottom line is, the healer is the person. The person is healing themselves by accessing the divine.
The dormant DNA. I always look at it as empty space on the hard drive. Is this, in your view, the space needed for the downloads of all the new vibrations and energies that are coming our way?
I think however you like to visualize that sort of thing, it's fine. Although, I'm not so sure it's empty. When they say junk DNA, it actually appears to be there. Something's there. Now they wanted to classify it in a certain way, but as you say, dormant, sleeping. So in other words, it's more like a partitioned hard drive, I think. Mm-hmm. Might be more accurate. I'm not sure. However you like to visualize it, really doesn't matter. But certainly, when you want to meditate, what you're doing is opening yourself up to what Pete Peterson, one of my, premier whistleblowers, talked about, which is in science is called the information field. So it's all around us, and someone else might call it ether. And somebody else might just call it, the field, and so on, or source, however you want to view it really, or whatever semantics you want to use. But in essence, it's like we are antennas, and we are accessing that field around us. And we want to activate parts of ourselves, open parts of ourselves in sort of unison with all other parts of ourselves, so that you don't get some kind of drastic imbalance, because that's where a person loses touch with this sort of medium in which we're in, kind of like fish in a sea. We're in a medium here on Earth that we call 3D /4D. But actually, if you lose complete touch, then you go into the areas of what people call madness, etc. So you want to maintain some contact with the earth, some balance, internal balance in so doing. So you'll get people coming in, even children, where forgetfulness is not just like a sentence, that you get like when you go to jail. It's not just a sentence, but actually a preferred mode of being. Let me talk about, for example, a person who chooses to be blind in this life, meaning their eyes are not working, the conventional sense of eyes we think of, but actually then their third eye and their much greater eye will be much more active because of the so-called impediment on the 3D. That will push them physically, and psychologically and emotionally and all their different bodies onto this path that emphasizes another part of their personality, another awareness that they have perhaps not. They put too much emphasis on the material world in their last life. And so in this life, they acquired, what appears to be an impediment, but is actually it's just a temporary crutch to help them recognize something they overlooked in a previous life. So, not all illness is going to be healed, because the person having the illness may be using it to access other realms and to force themselves to acknowledge other realms. And they need this temporary impediment in order to facilitate that for themselves. So, I think that's important, and a deeper understanding of what really illness is and what's going on here when someone comes in or acquires during life, a particular illness.
Within the work I'm doing, if somebody has very bad vision problems, it's because in a past life they made a vow, or call it the subconscious vow, where you say out loud, I never want to see anything bad in my life again. By saying those words, you're going to manifest that request. Okay, so this person doesn't want to see anything bad. Well, everything's bad. So now we're just going to take this person's vision away. So yeah, you have to go back into past lives and look at different experiences where something may have triggered all of this. Somebody has a question, personal experience of when you went to the Stardust Ranch. Do you want to talk quickly about the Stardust Ranch?
Sure. I have a video that we made at the Stardust Ranch. So if you haven't seen it, it's on my main YouTube channel, John Edmonds Stardust Ranch, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. And my YouTube channel is Jag Bodhi. So you can put in YouTube and the word / JAGB as in boy, ODHI. Combination of the word jaguar and bodhisattva, Jag Bodhi. But anyway, that's the name of my YouTube channel. I know it's crazy, but I came on as a YouTube director, and that was before Camelot. So I didn't know I was destined to end up in doing all this. Otherwise, it would be called Camelot. Look, my website, projectcamelotportal.com, I can say that, it was fascinating. It's a place where there are a lot of vortexes coming together on a part of Arizona. And I'm not sure what else to say about it unless you ask me a direct question. Yes, there are gray ETs. Yes, we caught a couple of them on the film. Yes, he and his wife have been inundated by them. There are gray underground bases that are filled with various races of grays. That particular area also coincides with what's called the Ashtar Command, which is, from what I understand, a mixture of races that are not necessarily all with humanity's best interests in mind. Which is important. There's also a military base under there. They may be using John Edmonds and his wife as, in a sense, guinea pigs to do experiments on them. Seems likely that they volunteered for this for some reason, not consciously necessarily. And so on. There are other beings that do visit that area. There are portals there. I'm a sensitive. I can feel portals in my hands, when I'm in contact with them, and so on. So, lots of ships have been seen there. It's a legitimate, place of that kind.
If anybody's interested, where can they view this on your website again?
Okay. Well, again, it's on my YouTube channel, which is also linked on my main website, which is projectcamelotportal.com or projectcamelot.org, takes you to the same place. But all my videos are there. You can use the search box and just put in, Stardust or put in Edmonds, and you should get all the different interviews. There's more than one interview with John Edmonds. I did a recent update, not long ago. But if you want to actually watch the one that was done at Stardust Ranch, where we filmed some stuff there, it's called Stardust Ranch. I've
seen these videos and they are amazing, and it takes a lot to blow me away. Everything to me is mundane now, but when I saw this interview and I saw what's going on in this ranch, I said, wow, okay, I'm riveted and I'm watching this. Our guest tonight has been Kerry Cassidy. Kerry, thank you so much for being on the show. How was it on the other side of the microphone for you?
Oh, excellent. Good questions. And I've enjoyed, as always, talking with you. And yeah, let's definitely have you back on the show. And thanks for having me as a guest.
This has been A Quantum View. Chris Kehler out.